Hey guys, guess where we were? That's right. Me and my partner got a unique chance to participate in an incredibly special event that's close to our hearts. For months, we've been counting down days with anticipation and dreaming of this moment of boarding the legendary Greenpeace ship. Yep, you heard me right. It's a ship and not a boat. The wait was finally over when the Rainbow Warrior harbored at the Colombo port, and let me tell you, it was even more awe-inspiring in person. If you, like us, have been wanting to get on board the ship but couldn't, I'm about to share our epic experience so you don't feel left out. Welcome to the launch of Greenpeace South Asia in Colombo. If you ask us what was our highlight of the day, by far it was meeting the Queen of the Ocean, Dr. Asha De Vos herself. And to top it off, she actually knowing who and what we did with our small upcycling brand Lala Studio. Let's listen to a bit of her empowering speech.
And it releases, it's absorbed about 30% of all the carbon that's ever been generated and about 90% of excess heat in our environment. So imagine if the ocean wasn't providing that service. Today we're walking around thinking it's really hot, but imagine if the ocean wasn't absorbing that 90% of excess heat, what would we be living in, right? So the oceans make our planet a livable space. Global warming means warmer seas, reduced oxygen levels, and acidification. So these are all things that threaten our marine ecosystems. They threaten coastal communities, people across the world. A lot of people's lives depend on these ecosystems. But the solutions to some of these problems actually lie within the ocean themselves. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about that in a second. The ocean's influence actually goes far beyond the coastal areas. So just because you live in the mountains doesn't mean the ocean is not providing a service. Doesn't mean that you don't have a role to play in protecting it, because the ocean does support all of our lives. If we think about the Indian Ocean, because that's where we are right now, that's where this amazing GPSA is now focused on this part of the world. There's been a significant decline in marine phytoplankton since the 1950s. There's science to show that we've lost about 20% of the marine phytoplankton in this area, and due in part at least to the warming sea, right? And what happens is phytoplankton, for those of you who are not familiar, are these microscopic plants that float on the surface of our oceans. They are the base of every single food web, right? So if you have these plants in the water, you can have zooplankton that feed on them, fish that feed on them, predators that feed on the fish, and larger things like dolphins, for example, that feed on those. They're part of a very important ecosystem. If you take out these plants from the ocean, you have less of everything else, right? So that base, phytoplankton, is integral to the proper functioning of our oceans. And that is something we can't forget. And that means we have to think about, with these warming oceans, what does that mean? If we've already lost 20% of our phytoplankton in the Indian Ocean alone in the last 6 decades, what direction are we heading in right now? This also impacts food security in the Indian Ocean rim countries and global fisheries market. Over the tropical oceans, the Indian Ocean, particularly the western region, hosts one of the largest concentrations of phytoplankton blooms in the summer, right? And this is because, as all of you know, we live in a monsoonal climate. You have the southwest monsoons that bring cold, nutrient-rich water up to the surface, and that creates very productive areas in our oceans. As a result of that, we have elevated levels of primary productivity, right? So like lots of nutrients, lots of food, and that attracts species into our waters, like tuna, for example. The large-scale distribution of tuna and other fishes are connected with these increased productivity areas. There are statistics that show that the Indian Ocean alone accounts for 20% of the total tuna catch.
If you found anything useful, do consider subscribing. Following the speeches and all the entertainment, we had a lovely vegetarian lunch and got on board the Greenpeace ship, the Rainbow Warrior.
Like in a commercial ship, actually. But for me was also new this measurement, this instrument, which is the relative and true wind sensor, which are all the way up on the mast, yes. And it's indicating me right now, we have the wind 6 knots speed, and then the direction, you can read always from here, 320 degrees, is almost north. So it's on the starboard, you have even painted the ship, is on the starboard quarter, like, yeah, if you see the flags, you also can see indicator. But it's very modern because before in the old sailing ships, they did not have this equipment. So I can stay easily on the bridge and I can see the wind.
It's like a cockpit in the flight.
Yeah.
Very similar to cockpit.
It's crazy, the world has changed.
Yeah,
It's very
absolutely.
modern, the ship.
And that smile was when I got to be the captain of Greenpeace for a few minutes. People for climate. Each one of us holds the power to make a change. It's about taking action now for our planet, for our ocean, and for our future generations. So let's be the wave of change together. Rainbow Warrior inspired us to be an active participant in the global effort to protect our planet. If you want to join this army, which is crucial in spreading awareness about environmental conservation and climate action, we will leave their links below for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Together, let's be part of the change we wish to see in the world. Until next time, keep making waves for a better tomorrow.